topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Good afternoon, Illinois. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we have brought you some of the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Today is it's kind of our double show. We're going to be talking about bankruptcy law. We're going to be talking about tax relief. And we have got one of the top attorneys in the state of Illinois. He's been with us for several years now. Let me introduce you and welcome Attorney Kevin Benjamin. Good afternoon, Kevin.
Good afternoon, Steve, and everybody. How you doing?
Good to see you. Hey, we've got this whole new audience now with TikTok. And if you don't mind, tell people about your firm.
Well, welcome all the TikTokers. I didn't even know we were doing that until about an hour ago. That's good news. Having the show expand is always good. I'm Kevin Benjamin. I have a law firm called Benjamin Legal Services. We also have a tax resolution company called Noble Tax Relief. However, as a tax lawyer, Benjamin Legal Services does tax resolution as well. So it's the same. It's still me doing it. That's just a separate, concentrated company. Benjamin Legal Services represents individuals and businesses in several things: bankruptcy, Chapter 7, Chapter 13, Chapter 11, all kinds of the Chapter 11, all kinds of bankruptcy litigation. We do foreclosure defense, loan workout and restructurings, plans to do litigation, and we do tax resolution with the IRS and some of the state entities as well. Some people call it tax controversy, same thing. We also represent individuals and companies who are before the IRS and the criminal division. We have some clients that are taken care of in that regard as well. And I'm also a member of the U.S. Tax Court, so we could handle anything if there's a tax court issue. I'm in the federal trial bar as well, and perfectly capable of handling whatever you need. Noble Tax Relief simply concentrates on the tax resolutions. IRS and offer and compromise. There's different kinds of installment agreements, partial pay installment agreements, currently non-collectible, effective tax administration, stuff like that. I don't do tax returns. We do tax resolution. So as an attorney, with the bankruptcies and the taxes, they kind of went hand in hand, because usually if someone's filing bankruptcy, what happens is they have a tax issue as well. Sometimes they're dischargeable in bankruptcy, sometimes they're not. So how you negotiate and how you analyze what they call a means test or liquidation analysis in a bankruptcy is very similar to how you negotiate with the IRS on offer and compromise. It's not like people think, on these radio ads where, hey, you just call them and start negotiating for pennies on the dollar and stuff like that. That's not how it works. It's facts. I'm an attorney. I deal in facts. So just like when I analyze a Chapter 13, a 7, or 11 under different IRS standards, same thing on a tax resolution. You're analyzing the IRS standards on maybe equity or non-equity, what's available on certain assets, how to reduce them, or what you have to count and what you don't have to count. That's how you negotiate with the IRS. So basically, it kind of goes hand in hand. So the tax and bankruptcy stuff is very similar. A lot of people, I've had clients this week hiring me because specifically I do both bankruptcy and tax resolution, and they wanted someone to handle both. So that's what I do.
Well, let me just for our TikTok listeners, and wow, we've got a bunch of them. We're talking about bankruptcy law today, and we're talking about tax relief. So if you've got a problem, maybe you might even have a friend or a family member, and you're going, I have no idea where to start, who to choose. That's one of the things we do with this show. We bring you on the top in their field. I'm going to start off the show a little bit different because we got a letter. It's a short letter, but it really, there's people out there who want to try to handle this themselves, which is you're going to learn from the show. It's a huge mistake. But we got a letter from Michael and said, I hope you read my email on the air. I learned there are so many scam companies out there that make so many false information when you contact them. I'm one of those people. I want people to know that Kevin Benjamin Law Firm is a 10-star service. They helped me file 6 years of unfiled taxes, so I'm fully up to date. I was looking at a large debt of $37,000, and they helped me bring it down under $5,000. He was very professional, and he kept it updated throughout the entire process. I highly recommend, as my $37,000 was my entire savings. I appreciate him so much. What a great letter, Kevin.
Yes, that's very nice. I get a lot of those, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you handle cases much bigger than that, but I don't know, when, $37,000, that's still a lot of money.
Sure. Absolutely it is. And everything's relative to people too. I mean, $30,000 is a lot of money. To some people, maybe it's not, but it is.
Well, we've got all these questions, and if you're watching right now on TikTok and you'd like a question for Kevin, either in bankruptcy or in tax relief, please give us your questions. The scroll goes pretty fast, so we're also watching YouTube come in. But we've got so many questions from Kevin's last show. This is from Craig, and he said, I'm having IRS problems. Is it better to hire a CPA or a firm like yours?
Well, obviously, a firm like mine. So to represent somebody before the IRS, you have to be a CPA, an attorney, or what's called an enrolled agent. So not all attorneys could actually do tax resolution. Not all CPAs can, but you would have to be one of those. So you have your CAF number, so you could get approved by the IRS to represent people. An enrolled agent can be a CPA or an attorney or a non-attorney who passes 3 different exams and tests and gets educated basically by the IRS to be approved. So those are the 3 designations. Now, depending on what you have, there's no reason, like a regular tax resolution, everyone doesn't have the possible bankruptcy issues or maybe the state issues with payroll taxes that maybe weren't paid and trust fund recovery and stuff like that. I have the ability to handle appeals, U.S. tax court, some things that a CPA or enrolled agent cannot do. So sometimes people may prefer me, but there's no difference if a CPA knows how to handle tax resolution, offer and compromise. It doesn't mean they can do it better than me or not as good as me. So there's not always a big difference. But depending on your individual circumstances, I actually handle both, which is kind of interesting because even as a bankruptcy lawyer, all my career, I've been that way. I do a lot of foreclosure stuff, state court, but I could handle that also through Chapter 7, 13, or 11s. Some lawyers don't handle Chapter 7, 13, 11, especially Chapter 11s, right? Some only do Chapter 7s. Some only do Chapter 13s. They want to streamline stuff. So I've always been all-encompassing. My job is to say, what are your options, the pros and cons of each, help you make an informed decision. Oftentimes, there's more than one option. And then let's get a plan. What's plan A, plan B, sub 1, sub 2? Make a plan, work the plan, and go through it. I have the ability to do a lot of things that a CPA could not do, but not everyone needs that. So to answer the question directly, me, but it doesn't mean everyone needs an attorney to do it.
This is from Cindy on TikTok. I actually caught your show on YouTube last month, and you talked about if you try to handle it yourself, it could actually make things worse. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Sure, because you probably don't know what you're doing. So like the other caller was saying more specifically, hey, CPA or an attorney, because CPA and attorneys do this or can be, if you're approved by the IRS to do it, you want to have a professional. You don't know what you're doing. I have a lot of clients who've come to me, hey, they just call the IRS themselves. How'd that work out for you, right? The IRS is not your friend, right? Oh, you can just go online. You go on the IRS site and just fill out your installment agreement. You can, and maybe that's all you need, right? But are you doing the proper installment agreement? You know what I'm saying? Are you taking all your options? I have people who've done that and can't pay, and I said, how about the partial pay installment? Like, oh, no one mentioned that. Why would the IRS mention the partial pay to you? You know what I'm saying? They'll always take a payment from you, okay? Doesn't mean it's always resolved. So some are simple stuff. So I'm not saying you can't do it yourself, but, I have, and some people will call me, it's $5,000. You probably should do it yourself, but it's not worth the attorney fee.
Right.
But depending on your situation, you probably want a professional. You could be your own doctor. You could be your own plumber. I couldn't, but maybe some people can. So also, if you're talking to the IRS and they're asking you questions, what answers are you giving, right? Are you also with the revenue officer or revenue agent? Are you in the criminal division? Or do you not even know? Are you being audited, right? So what kind of questions are you answering? It's just like having a lawyer in court. You can represent yourself in court. Call pro se. See how that works out for people? Not well, right? So yes, you ought to have a professional, but on a minor thing or simple, maybe you just work it out. But a lot of people's tax issues are more than just basic. Because it's just a matter of $5-10 grand. I owe the money. I'm W-2. I don't have any assets. You probably could hire me, but maybe it's not worth the attorney fee, right? So maybe you want to work it out yourself. But otherwise, you probably may have more options. Maybe you have offer compromise. Maybe you have a totally non-collectible. Maybe you have a hardship that you don't know about. How are you analyzing your assets? What values are you giving? What expenses? Stuff like that. So you should have a professional.
This is from Sid. How do you know when it's the right time to file for bankruptcy? I've told a few of my family members how much I owe, of course, thinking maybe they might help, which they didn't, but they told me that I don't owe enough to file for bankruptcy. Can you explain when's the right time to file?
Sure. When you think it's the right time, okay? There's no minimum debt to file a bankruptcy. You want to file bankruptcy on $5,000? Most people would say no. As a matter of fact, I had someone actually just yesterday. I've been talking to them since actually March, and I'm going over their case yesterday. I'm like, besides your student loans, which can sometimes be discharged in bankruptcy, you got to do something else, file an adversary and these attestations and stuff like that. But if her other debt was only $5,000 or $5,000 or $6,000, I'm like, there's other ways to resolve student loan stuff, just like IRS, right? But outside of filing bankruptcy, plenty of good deals. So sometimes I tell somebody you don't need bankruptcy or you don't need it now. Controversy. I have somebody yesterday or last week, but yesterday I was talking to them again for last week, who contacted me because I'm a lawyer and does tax and does bankruptcy. And they have a corporation in bankruptcy, but he's not the main person. And there's issues there. There's some lawsuits and things he's liable for. He's got some assets. Wanted to qualify for Chapter 7. Many personal assets, investment assets, overseas stuff, and then owes over $600,000 to the IRS. Turned out it's one particular year. So like I said before, I'm an attorney, I deal in facts. So the first thing I do is let's do a file review. Retain me for that. Let me get a copy of the IRS file, and I'll go over the CSETs, the collection statute expiration dates, bankruptcy dischargeability dates, audit factors, the whole ball game, right? Because like bankruptcy sometimes can discharge taxes. Now, if it's dischargeable, doesn't mean you still want to file bankruptcy or that's even a good idea, right? Now, 600 grand's a long time. Turns out in October it's dischargeable. Well, it's only about 4 or 5 months, right? Well, good news. Well, there's a lot of assets still too. So how are we resolving that? There's also some litigation going on in the other Chapter 11 between him and his partner, and so how are we handling that? So yeah, that's why he wanted someone who doesn't just do tax resolution. He wanted not only attorney, someone who does bankruptcy and that, because I could advise him on several options because I know what the end game is, and I'm talking yesterday how to get there and how to protect the assets that he wants to keep. And also, if I file a 7 or 13 or 11 right now, assets are exposed, or if I do a restructuring, they're not exposed, but the filing tolls the expiration period for dischargeability in bankruptcy. Not all, sometimes income taxes aren't dischargeable. Usually there's not, there's exceptions. This exception happened to be on my analysis October something of this year. So how do we get there, and how do we keep the assets? And there's a lot of moving parts. So that's how we analyze that.
This is from Fred, another TikTok. Hey, this is the first time I've ever seen a bankruptcy show rather than just a little snippet about bankruptcy. I would like to know, because I'm a little nervous with my business. Can the IRS come out to my place of business to question me?
Well, yes and no. I mean, they're not just going to knock on your door, right? But yeah, they could do an inspection. They could do a on-site inspection or on-site visit on certain circumstances. But they're not. They just owe them money. They're not just coming to your door, and they're not calling you on the phone, right? So people say, "Oh, the IRS is calling me." I had someone yesterday.
Yes.
They get these letters in the mail and it looks really official. Seizure, this and that, IRS. And I talked to a client yesterday, give me a letter. So, okay, well, good news. Well, it's a public record that you owe money, so you probably are owing money, and I got to deal with the IRS for it. But the letter is not from the IRS. It's from a scam marketing company. They make these letters out to try to make it look official. They're just marketing letters trying to steer you some boiler room phone calls. But they're getting it from a list that's public record. You do owe the money, and you may be subject to a seizure, but they're not coming to your house. And by the way, like I have meetings when someone hires me. Sometimes I have people supposed to meet with the IRS like the next day or something like that. So I got to reschedule those. But I go to the meeting. I take care of it. You only go if I tell you to come with me. I represent you as your attorney.
Here, this is from Randy in Chicago. I owed $32,000 to the IRS. I paid it rather than fight them, but I know that I'm right. Does your firm fight to get my money back?
Well, if it's owed back, right? So one common thing is people call with those kind of questions all the time. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but you got to show me so I could fight for you. Just like I have a client in a Chapter 11, right? Just yesterday, proof of claim came in on the lender, $1.7 million. Oh, the bank owes me this. They did this. They stole money from me. Okay, they stole money from your account, or they overcharged you. Different story. I can handle it, but show me what happened. I'm an attorney, because if I got to file something, I got to sign my name to it as officer of the court that there's a basis for doing this, and go after somebody. IRS, I have a case now with a client where it's been ongoing, and the dollar amounts around, they're not all credited, which is, I think, what this caller is talking about. At the same time, we're trying to offer compromise. So it wouldn't matter, because if I'm compromising it, the compromise works like this, or any tax resolution. The IRS will settle for the RCP the reasonable collection potential. Okay, so let's say you qualify for an offer of compromise, and not everyone does. Okay, and the numbers are low because a lot of people try it because who don't qualify because all these companies pound the airways with, I settled, the IRS pays on the dollar, offering compromise. And every time you call them, you qualify until you pay them, and then you don't. So let's say you owe $100,000, and I negotiate with the IRS that your reasonable collection potential is 10,000. Okay, I'm not negotiating a percentage. I'm negotiating a reasonable collection potential, because in this example, you owe 100 grand. If the IRS takes that, I settle for 10 cents on the dollar. If you owe $1 million, I just settle for a penny on the dollar, but it's still $10,000. If you owe $20,000, I just settled for 50 cents on the dollar. It's still $10,000. Okay, so the more you owe, the lower
Right.
your percentage will go. But I have clients who actually owe a couple $1 million because years ago they're making some good money, right? Things change. Not making that, Kevin. How am I going to pay? Well, you're not, because you have a change of circumstances. You're not making that money now. That's what the offer of compromise is for. So you probably want to with the pennies on the dollar situation because the dollar amount's so high. But we got to show the IRS. It's no different than settling a lawsuit or I'm defending somebody on a collection matter or something like that. It's like, what's the collection potential of that case? So we negotiate to show them the collection potential, right? And then they can settle it because they're not just going to take your word for it. Saying you got to show me what happened. Show me you don't have it. Show me this and that. And then things are different. So that's what I do.
This is from Michael in Chicago. I am not happy with the attorney I hired, I guess, for my IRS. I want to make some changes to my payment plan. Can your firm help me with that?
Yes, give me a call.
Okay. Let's give them your phone number. I know there's a lot of people right now who are watching on YouTube. Just give people who are listening by radio or now by iHeart, Spotify. What is your phone number? How they can reach you, Kevin?
312-853-3100. Area code 312-853-3100. We could visit benjaminlaw.com. All the contact information is on.
Here's Kathy and wants to know, how far back can the IRS go?
Well, how far can they go and how far they go is a different story. And again, I had someone just call me this week. They want somehow they had a come to Jesus thing. I want to go back 25 years. Like 25 years. He's been underreporting it with this person. I'm not naming names, so it's like I don't know. You can go 25 years, 6 at least. Okay, 10 is the expiration date, but there's tolling events and stuff like that. So 10 doesn't always mean 10 because depending what happens, it could go longer that you're liable for it. But if you are doing the last 6, filing your returns, becoming current, they're usually good because that's a long time. You're resolving those issues, and they're getting a taxpayer back in the system. I'm saying moving forward, people are going to come clean. Like that one example I was giving you on the person for over $600,000, which could be with all those other issues, that wound up being just 1 year from like 2022, something like that. The rest of the years he's clean filed, so we're good. Sometimes someone says, "Hey, I owe 100 grand," but it's not always 1 year. To you, it's 100 grand. To me, it's like, hey, how many years goes by? Is it from 2016, 18, 19, 20, but not 21, but 22? Because I have to analyze each tax year. What's the collection statute expiration date on each tax year? What's the bankruptcy dischargeability on each tax year? It doesn't mean you're filing bankruptcy. It just means I got to know what leverage I have and what options I have. Okay, and if it's a generally unsecured debt or secured debt with the IRS or priority debt, or what's the audit factors or things like that. What's the assessment expiration date? So all these things. So I'm not just analyzing your overall 100 grand. I'm analyzing each year. So some people may have 7 years or 6 years of breaking that up. So it's more work analyzing it, but that's how I get my file ready before we present to the IRS, is I'm knowing if I'm making an installment agreement, for example, what payment's being credited to what, and I try to get it credited to the ones that are going to expire last, not first, because sometimes while you're paying off the IRS, maybe some of those other ones fall off, right? So depending on how you submit the offer and things like that, which is another reason why you want a CPA or attorney or enrolled agent handling your case. And then, of course, sometimes things happen while you're in an agreement, right? So not everyone's going to offer in compromise. Sometimes it's different and things happen and things change. Like a few minutes ago, the person asked about, he's in a current plan, but now something's happened, right? So yeah, you could always start over and do things.
We're here with Kevin Benjamin. We're talking about bankruptcy law, and we're also talking about tax relief. Kevin is in Chicago, but if you've got a tax situation anywhere or bankruptcy anywhere in the state of Illinois, and if it's a tax situation out of Illinois, he can also handle that. Kevin, let's get to, this is from Jake. He said, I know you have to charge, and I understand that. My concern is I don't think I will have enough money to pay the IRS back. That's why I've been afraid to come forward. Your suggestion?
Come forward, meaning to the IRS or to me?
It sounds like to the IRS.
Okay. So say that again, the question.
So he wants to know, he said he understands you have a fee to charge. His concern is not having the money that he owes the IRS.
Right. Many people don't have the money. That's why maybe you qualify for an offer in compromise. I offer a free consultation. So what you need to do is schedule with me. Let's discuss it, because maybe there's different programs that you don't have to pay them, right? So that's what we got to talk about, because I don't want you calling the IRS yourself, or what you're doing is you're just kind of all stressed out, it sounds like. And it's an ongoing thing, and you're afraid to call them because you think they're going to want the money all like right now and they're going to come arrest you or something. That's not going to happen. Call me. Consultation is free, and let's figure out what you have to pay, if anything, and how to resolve it. There's different ways that there's offer and compromise, installment agreements, partial pay installment agreements, and there's some sub-programs of each one, which is too complicated for this call right now. But I also they call effective tax administration. A currently non-collectible, something happened, that's maybe for the next 6 months to 2 years, get them off your back. They'll agree to that. If we qualify for that, possible bankruptcy, possible, different, all kinds of options, which I do all of them, which a lot of people don't. Okay. So the consultation is free. Call me. We'll figure out a plan. I promise there is a solution. Okay. There is a solution. And I'm going to ask you questions, because you can't pay. I believe you, but you're going to show me, because your budget and this and that and your assets, you don't have them to liquidate, or you want to protect them. So if I wind up doing a bankruptcy, which I'm not saying that we're doing, there's different kinds, right? So analyze all those different options, plus all the option compromises and partial pays and installment agreements and other programs for your currently not collectible, but the tax administration, whatever. Give me a call. Consultation's free.
We got several questions here. People wanting to know, if I owe the IRS, can I file bankruptcy and include the fees I owe them in the bankruptcy?
Right. Well, it's not a fee you owe the IRS, it's a tax, right? So the answer is maybe. Okay. So like federal taxes, IRS tax, they're not automatically dischargeable in bankruptcy, right? But sometimes they are. Now, a lot of times people say, oh, if they're 3 years old, they're dischargeable. That's not true by itself. That's the first prong. But also 3 years, when does it start? Then it's assessed for 240 months, and there's some other prongs that go through it. And also you got to file the returns in good faith. This is like a 5 to 7 point test, and I could run the whole thing. And if you're listening earlier in the show, when I gave the example of that one just the other day on that 600,000 plus, I said the first thing I'm going to do is get a copy of the file, do an audit and review, of the file and see what's going on. And I determined in that case, it could be dischargeable, but in October of 2026, in a few months. So how do we get to there? Now we start working a plan, because also I mentioned, if you were listening before, in that example, that big sum was just from one tax year. Sometimes someone may have like $100,000 in taxes, but it's over several different years. I got to analyze each tax year for the various expiration dates on the collection expiration dates, the assessment dates, audit factors, but also the BK dischargeability dates. Because if you owe 100 grand and it's over 4 years, for example, different years, 20 grand, 17,000, 10 grand, I got to see which years are dischargeable when. So I may say, hey, someone's got $100,000 taxes. If we file now, I can get rid of 37,000. But if I file in 2 months, I can get rid of, now it's 60, or, I get rid of another 20 on this deadline. And can we get there? And it depends. Sometimes someone's coming in, okay, they have a sheriff sale or a foreclosure sale of their home. Well, I got to file something stat because it's being sold in 2 days, right? Or sometimes the next day, the emergency filing, right? So now, now your priority is your house. So I got to, if it tows the event, it tows the event, but we got to do that. Otherwise, someone comes to me, there's bankruptcy planning, bankruptcy exemption planning. So even when someone comes to me, they want to file. Well, before we file, we do all our homework and due diligence and go over things. And if it turns out maybe you should wait, then we'll wait, because maybe, okay, you get more is going to be discharged in only a few months or so forth, and there's no emergency right now. So let's just hold off and keep things, I'll handle the creditors to that point, and we'll go down the line and get more discharged, right? Or if it's an emergency, someone's suing you, or they're getting a judgment, and they're about to start, garnishing your boat or whatever, maybe we got to work quicker, and we got to analyze how much by waiting more can I discharge as compared to what I'm going to lose now. But that's all part of my job, to analyze for you and to give you my opinion, right? I'm a counselor, attorney, and counselor at law. Give you my legal opinion and help you get to where you want to go. What's the end game? There's usually more than one option.
Again, I want to reiterate, Kevin, I know there's people out there who think they can handle the IRS themselves. I'm telling you, you do not want to go up against the IRS yourself. Whatever Kevin's fees are, because everybody's different, whatever the fees are, I'm telling you, it is so worth it. First of all, you don't even have to talk to the IRS anymore. We just got a question in, Kevin. Someone wants to know, I've told people I've been thinking about filing bankruptcy. I've told them I include my college loans. Is that possible?
Well, possible, yeah, but doesn't mean it's automatic, right? So they've made different changes in the student loan laws over the years. When I got started, I think a long time ago, age myself here, you could file bankruptcy and student loans were dischargeable before I started. Then when I started, it was 5 years. Then they made it 7 years. Then they made it, non-dischargeable. But then private loans were dischargeable. But like the banking lobby on these foreclosure crises from years ago, where they bribe all the congressmen and senators to pass these special interest laws for them, the banks did the same thing. See, there's no need for a private loan because those are the worst ones to get. Because the federal loans have all kinds of programs for, income-based repayment. Sometimes your payment's zero for a while. Public service forgiveness, all kinds of programs. A lot of it's changing right now. But the private ones are simply just gouging you, suing you, and going for it. They're not required to do a lot of different things. However, your student loan is not always just a student loan. So what was it used for? It has to be used for certain things, because sometimes the loan is for more than that. So it doesn't really qualify under the bankruptcy code as a student loan to be discharged, okay? Also, there is a lot of, like someone called yesterday, there's a lot, and there's from the last couple of years, a lot of these colleges were kind of ripping people off, misleading people as to the cost of the degree and job prospects and stuff like that. So some of those are forgivable. You don't need to file bankruptcy. There's a form. Someone just called yesterday and just gave it a form because I don't want to say the name of the college because it's broadcast, but this check. I'm like, oh, that's one of them. I said, you don't need me because it's they're on the list, and here's the website. Your form you fill out yourself, and you'll be good to go. No need to pay me for that, right? Otherwise, in the past, there's this they were hard to discharge because if it's a qualified student loan, which they not always are, or tuition is not a student loan. So that's why you got to have a lawyer look at it, right? Well, let's say it was qualified. Then the question is, if you have a hardship. Well, they had this thing called the quote unquote the Bruner test, some ridiculous law court decision that was made decades ago before things changed, right? And no one's ever going to qualify under the Bruner test for a hardship because it's ridiculous. So the last 4 or 5 years, the Department of Justice gave guidelines to their attorneys on not necessarily discharging it, but not contesting it when we file an adversary proceeding to discharge it if you have the hardship. But also, that's not automatic. Like I was talking to somebody yesterday because they're on Google online thinking it's automatic. It's not, but you can, right? So yes, it can be dischargeable. It's not automatic, right? So that's why you call a lawyer.
This is from Harold, wants to know. He said, thank you so much for your show. It's really helping me to make a decision I need to make. Can you tell me, I keep hearing about this tax forgiveness or Fresh Start. Can you explain that?
The famous Fresh Start program, call now. The IRS is going to forgive everything. Not true. There is no new program. The Start Fresh program was years ago. I don't remember, maybe 2010 or something. A long time ago. And all that was a readjustment of the offer and compromise guidelines on how to analyze an offer and compromise, and how many months you can go, and that kind of stuff. So there's no new program, okay? And there's no official Start Fresh program. That's just people on the radio saying, call now, just like you hear on the radio on the credit. If you owe credit card debt, call me now. We have secrets the banks don't want you to know about. Ooh, call me. You don't got to pay. It's federal law. Come on. I got a bridge to sell you, right? So there is no Start Fresh. But offer and compromise is Start Fresh, right? Resolving the issue, you're starting fresh. So in that respect, there is a program, but there's no separate program that's like, hey, it's all forgiven. You're starting fresh because there's some new program. There's nothing new. That's just a marketing gimmick.
This is a good question from Sharon in Chicago. She wants to know, if I hire your firm, will the IRS look down on me?
Please tell me you're joking. No. Who's the
think
IRS?
I think what she's saying is, if I hire someone to assist me, does the IRS look down on me?
No,
not you specifically.
It's the opposite. They want you to have a professional. They don't want to work with you. You don't know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I have revenue offers agents. I'm talking to your client's never showing up. Well, now they hired me. I'm going to, take care of them. So saying, or getting documents. No, they want a professional. That's why you got to be approved. Even not all attorneys or CPAs can represent you. You got to be approved by the IRS. It's not a magical thing, but you have to. And they have the enrolled agents that they actually train. They want someone who actually knows what they're doing to try to resolve it. The IRS just wants to be criminal stuff aside. The IRS just wants to get their RCP, their reasonable collection potential, and get what they can that they're entitled to. And even if it's not all of it, and then having you back in the system moving forward, getting paid. Absolutely, they're not looking down on you. No way. You have the right to have a representative. And you'd be actually not wise to not have one.
See, Kevin, there's so many people who don't know. And, they hear friends, they talk to friends, they talk to relatives, which is the worst thing to do, right?
They go to a cocktail party and everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
They know someone did one and they're all smart and they all went on Google. And everyone has an answer, but they don't know no one else they're talking about. I get that all the time. People calling me, hey, my cousin said this or that. Well, they're not a lawyer. They're wrong. Oh, I spoke to some other lawyer. They said this. Well, okay, well, I disagree. They're not a bankruptcy lawyer. Or if they are, I disagree. Then why are you calling me? Right? Because if they have all the answers, because I'll tell them what's going on. Oh, I like that, but the other guy said that, or the person said that, him or her could, then hire that person. I mean, I'm just giving you my opinion because the consultation is free, right? I'm not saying you have to hire me. There's no obligation, right? But I'm not. Can you talk to my brother's a lawyer? Can you talk to him? No, I don't need help, right? I don't need someone getting on the phone trying to show you how smart they are and trying to like I'm the bad guy, right?
Right.
I turned clients down. I had someone just the other day, talking about the bank. Well, I don't know. Okay, listen, then don't do it. You're calling me. I don't know you. You don't know me, right? You're entitled to a free consultation. I just gave you one. You're calling me to file bankruptcy. And I told you how it works and what goes on and how it could help you. And if you're not sure about it, don't do it because I'm not even going to take your case. I'm not talking you into it. I'm just telling you what you're. And sometimes I tell people, like the person was on the whole show, sometimes you don't need it, right? Or filing now isn't the right time for different reasons, right? That's part is free because I can analyze that. Sometimes someone gets a little more complex. Are you qualifying, right? Maybe there's a small fee to run the means test to see if I can qualify you. And then there's deductions to get people under the income limits. That takes a little more time. So maybe there's a small fee for that just to try to qualify you. But the initial consultation and talking about the different kinds of cases and stuff like that, it's someone just right before the show, I got a phone call. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I want to file bankruptcy, but I'm curious. That's why you're calling, right? Okay. Because I'm on a house with my dad. I'm not on the note, but I'm on the house with my dad, this person said. And I don't want to lose the house. Right? Absolutely. How much equity do you have in the house? She told me. I said, not an issue. There's the law. Now, before we file, I'm going to check. I mean, because maybe she's wrong. Maybe there's a couple $100,000 more equity than she thought or something like that. I mean, we'll do our numbers. But on the initial consultation, I'm just giving a general response. And I told her nothing gets filed until we both say so, right? And because I had people, I got no easy case, no assets, nothing. Well, I do my job is to do some due diligence, not because you're lying, because it's my job, right? Because sometimes people don't know, right? Hey, this person's suing you. I didn't know. I know you know because I see in the lawsuit you never served, but now I could add that creditor. Or I had a case a year or so ago, and I thought my client was lying to me. And I'm like, because I'm doing a chapter 7, they don't have a house, and I'm like, oh my God, you have a ownership in your mother's house. What? I thought she was lying to me. I was pissed off, right? They found it, right? Like, I don't have an ownership. Well, it turns out what she did, because I found it, the mother was surprising her. But I'm like, oh my God, good mother, just going to put you on, not let you know, but, and I was able to get that resolved with the Chapter 7 trustee because there was the way they did it, it wasn't really owning it. It's really a beneficial interest upon that and more of a estate planning thing. But, she didn't know. So she wasn't lying to me. So that happens. Otherwise, I have clients that I find, how about that house in Michigan? How'd you know about that? Because I'm a genius. I put the credit report. You have a mortgage? Yeah, it's reporting. I mean, what's the trustee going to do? They're going to call it. That's the first thing everybody does. It's not Dick Tracy stuff, not rocket science, right? Not, FBI doing a FBI investigation on you. Just asset and lien search, Or sometimes people are like, oh, what? Why? That was 10 years ago. That thing's long gone. Yeah, maybe it is. But see, you deal with that before I file the case. So I could do the paperwork properly. And as your lawyer, I'm informed. So I'm not surprised. So when someone's coming at you, they got to go through me, right? And they go through me. I'm like, oh no, I'm aware of that. Here's why. Here's how we do this and that, right? The worst thing I don't like is if I have a client, like I had, I mentioned on some other show, lie to me on a Chapter 11 where they were missing a meeting because they had to go to Florida, chaperoning their kids, right? So I got an extension on his word. Well, a lot of creditors are coming after him. The U.S. trustee hated him and all this kind of stuff. I got on the call with like 5 people. And I said, no, he's in Florida, this and that. And they said, oh, Kevin, they sent me an email. Is this him? He was in jail, right?
Oh.
So sandbagging me, I called the wife, right? And I'm like, first of all, I don't want to hear this. I just want to know what the hell's going on, right? And when I talked to the, well, I'm not saying you're a crook or not. I don't care. You lied to me. You made me look foolish, and I won't accept that, right? Because that's my reputation, and I can't help you if you don't help me. And
right.
What's the point? Plus, I have a reputation I want to keep. So with all my other clients, right? Don't ever lie to me. And if you just told me, it's not an issue, right? I'm not your criminal lawyer. I believe you. Whatever happened, happened. You guys deal with that crap. But you couldn't make the meeting because you're, going to be away for 30 days. So I mean, I would have just had it legitimately taken care of.
Kevin, what I love about you, I got to tell you, we've been doing this now for a while. You are so upfront and honest, and it might not be what someone wants to hear, but I got to tell you, I have learned working with Kevin for so long that he's going to be totally upfront with you, whether you like the news or not. And I so appreciate your firm. Kevin, tell people how they can reach you.
312-853-3100. That's 312-853-3100. Or just go to benjaminlaw.com. That's my last name, law.com, benjaminlaw.com, or nobletaxrelief.com. All the contact information is on there. Give me a call. You can even schedule through the websites without calling. You get on my calendar. Otherwise, you can call. No problem.
Kevin's with us every month. We'll also be replaying the show next week. Kevin, thank you so much. Man, I love doing your show. You're the best.
Thanks for having me. I enjoy it.
Okay, have a good holiday weekend. We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's attorney Kevin Benjamin. Folks, if you've got a tax problem, a bankruptcy problem, you're in the Illinois area, give Kevin a call. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be running replays on Monday because it's a holiday, but we'll be back on Tuesday, and we'll see you then. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.